On the Eurovans, there's not much you can access from the top, unless you put the radiator into service position, which is straightforward. Some bolts here, get rid of the grill, move everything forward. Oil dipstick here. If you have an automatic transmission, there's an oil dipstick on this side. On the early ones, I think starting 95, 96, there's no more dipstick, or 97, somewhere on there. Coolant bottle reservoir, brake fluid, idle stabilizer, throttle cable, obviously, oil filler here, power steering, windshield washer fluid, battery, that's going to need some cleaning up. Brake fluid already mentioned. That's your evap purge valve right under here. It's a fairly big one. Cold start valve. You got your distributor, cold start valve for fuel injection. Distributor, radiator fans, and that's pretty much it. Air filter. You pop this guy down and then you unclip here and then you can lift this whole thing out. That's a CO adjustment pod. You don't want to touch that. That's why it's blocked off. Throttle position switch. Heater core. That's the bleed valve here. I try not to touch this one because it's plastic. They usually break. What else? This vacuum hose that attaches over here goes to the engine computer, and there's a map sensor in here. When this hose breaks, you get running issues, running rich, black smoke, rough idle. So it's a good idea to check this guy when you experience those symptoms. Ignition coil is down here. These are the radiator fan fuses, radiator fan relays or module. And like I said earlier, the resistor packs on this model are under here. If you have a solid grill, the resistor packs are probably underneath the vehicle. And by solid grill, I mean this is one piece with this front piece. On this model, I can move the radiator forward and this piece stays in place. And then once the radiator is forward, you can get at the two little bolts. I have videos for that. If you guys are wondering what this is an exhaust test port before the catalytic converter. In the old days, we used to always put our gas analyzer here to check the emissions before the catalytic converter, because what's the use of checking after the converter? Because everything has been cleaned up by that point. You want to check the emissions before the converter. On the Eurovan, once you got the oil pan, the bottom skid plate off, you then have access to the engine. So you got the power steering right here. Air conditioning is here when you have it. Alternator, timing belt, tensioner. That's the serpent belt tensioner, sorry. That's just the idler roller. Timing belt tensioner is obviously in behind the covers. Thermostat location is right here. It's your low pressure oil pressure switch, high pressure oil pressure switch. Electric water pump for when you shut the car off, it'll continue to run and cycle coolant. There's a drain here for the block. You've got the radiator fans. Sometimes the radiator fan resistor packs are here. Most of the time they're located underneath the headlight. You've got the starter here, distributor obviously, and then the spark plugs, coolant flange. You got the blue temp sensor for the engine computer. The yellow one is for the dash, as well as the after run pump. That pretty much takes care of everything underneath here. Standard transmission, you got a filler plug right here. There's on the automatics, there's a plug on the back of the differential for gear oil. Obviously drive shaft, driver's side, passenger side. The power steering has a pressure switch right here, and you can see this one's disconnected, most likely because it keeps blowing the fuse for the engine computer, and that affects idle. The engine will still run, but the idle stabilizer will not get power because this guy is shorted, it blows the fuse. So if you have symptoms of a low idle or stalling when you turn the power steering, check this switch. It could be that it's blown. O2 sensor, there's a harness plug for the O2 sensor. Fuel filters under here, right underneath the shifter, standard or automatic. Got the horns, one and one over here. If I missed anything, let me know. I'll try to reply as quick as possible.